Good morning.
Good morning, Jerry.
This week is the week of Epiphany, first Sunday after Epiphany. And Epiphany celebrates the manifestation of Jesus to the Gentiles. Jesus being made known to the world. And he is the answer to the world's problems. And there are a lot of problems in the world today. We could go on and on about all the problems that there are. But to be honest, there have always been a lot of problems in the world. And Jesus is the answer to those problems. I met a man who was a missionary in Costa Rica, and he applied to go to be in the mission field with the denominational board of his church. And they asked him, what's the answer to the world's problem? And he said, Jesus. And they rejected him as being too simple-minded. Now, mind you, the man had multiple degrees and was smarter than probably anybody who sat on that board. But we like to think that there are complicated answers, that there's so much more to it. But the answer really is Jesus. He is the desire of nations. He was the one to come, and he has come. In Haggai chapter 2, we see God encouraging them as the temple is being rebuilt, and the temple is lacking its former glory. But God encourages them. And it points to the idea of it finding its glory, its fulfillment in Jesus, and not just for Israel, but for the world. The glory of God comes to us. Emmanuel, God with us, God revealed to us. And he is the desire of the nations. He is what the world needs. Now, often we would say, well, that's people don't want Jesus and people don't want to hear about Jesus. But that's because often we think what we need or want is something different than what we actually need or want. And a real simple example. Christmas time, people give cookies, right? I walk into the kitchen and I see we have all different types of cookies, and what do I want?
Cookie.
I want a cookie. Exactly. My desire is on a cookie. What do I need? I need something a little healthier than a cookie every time I go into the kitchen. You know, our desires can be easily twisted and turned away, but the truth is, the answer to all of our problems is found in Jesus. All of our desires are fulfilled in him. And when we desire other things, it's desiring something that falls short. Jesus is the desire of the nations. And so we want to look at some of the things that were missing from the temple as being rebuilt and see how it is fulfilled in Jesus. Well, the Ark of the Covenant was missing, so the Holy of Holies was missing. The Shekinah glory, which had come down on the temple, which had come down on the tent of meeting, was not there. The signs of the presence of God were missing. But Jesus is the presence of God come to us. Jesus is Emmanuel, God made flesh. Comes to us. We need the presence of God in our lives. We need the presence of God. And we have it through Jesus. Jesus brings that to us. And it's easy, particularly now, to look at our lives and see all the things that are missing. I cannot believe that we've been dealing with COVID for 2 years now. And to think to be able to go out and not be thinking about, do I need to take a mask with me? Should we be going out to dinner? Should we be doing this? Should we be doing that? It's easy to look at what our life, what is missing.
Jesus.
That's what we need in our lives. That's what is fulfilling. That's what fulfills. What we need is the presence of God. And Jesus is the presence of God to us. The other thing that was missing from the second temple was the power of God. God had gone quiet. Malachi was the last of the prophets. Haggai was a prophet during the second building of the temple. And then God goes silent. The power of God at work. Jesus is the Word, the power of God come to us. Why does Jesus heal? To show that the power of God has come to man, that God is at work in our lives. Why does Jesus heal? To show that he has come to rectify our relationship to God. That we are made whole in him. When you look at yourself in the mirror, when you think about yourself, do you think about somebody who is entirely whole? When you wake up in the morning, is your first thought about the fact that you are entirely whole? Or is your first thought when you wake up in the morning that my shoulder hurts, my knees hurt? For me, I wake up and I'm like, my hands are numb because I have carpal tunnel syndrome and I didn't sleep right. You know, we go through all these things, all these problems that we have, and the reality is we have the power of God at work in our lives, and while we may be physically struggling now, we are made whole in God, that we are able to come into his presence and know his glory. You see, our problem is that we have misdefined wholeness. Our culture defines wholeness as being young, being strong. Ginger and I will be watching television and we'll see the ads for the face cream. And they've got some 28-year-old woman putting cream on her face to take away her wrinkles. And we laugh and we're like, put that on a 70-year-old and show me that it takes away the wrinkles. You know, but we think about that. A 28-year-old putting on wrinkle cream. What does that tell you about our culture? What does that tell you about the idea of what we consider whole? But to be whole is to be made right with God. To be whole is to have the power of God in our lives, to know him, to relate to him. We need to take our eyes off of ourselves and look up to him. We have the presence of God in our lives. We have the power of God in our lives. And the last thing is that the glory. The first temple was built, Solomon was so wealthy that it was glorious. People were amazed at the wealth and wisdom of Solomon. The second temple wasn't built with the same grandeur. They didn't have the same wealth for it. It didn't seem to have the same glory, but Jesus is the glory of God revealed to us. We have the glory of God in its fullness in Jesus. And it doesn't matter if we are gathering to worship him in a tent, or if we're gathering to worship him in one of the grandest cathedrals. The glory of God is present with us. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't try and make what we have as glorious for God as we can. We most certainly should. But what matters is that the glory of God is with us, revealed to us in Jesus, come to us in him. It's the glory of God, the power of God, the presence of God. is in our lives because of Jesus. It's so easy for me to look at and see what is missing.
God.
What I think things should be like now. But
God.
that's when I set my desire on the wrong things. Jesus is the desire of nations. He is the answer to our problems. He is the answer to all our needs. Because of Jesus, we have the power of God, the presence of God, and the glory of God at work in our lives. Let us pray.